Hi, I'm Rachel Tessman from stampyourartout.com, and I'm here to share with you my first set of alternate project ideas that I created with the February 2024 Sweet Springtime Paper Pumpkin Kit from Stampin' Up! These are the supplies that came in this month's kit. When you assemble the projects as shown, you create 9 items: 3 standard size cards, 3 slimline cards, and 3 milk carton treat boxes. The steps for creating those items can be found within the direction sheet or by following the steps in the how-to video. That link, along with other kit details and creative inspiration, can be found on the back of that included pamphlet. I invite you to watch what I share today though, because I love to think outside the box and manipulate the parts and pieces of these kits to make lots of other paper crafting projects. The kits are a Stampin' Up! Product, so the colors, images, and supplies always coordinate with many other Stampin' Up! Products. All these tools and supplies that I'll be using are listed below and linked to my online store. You can also find links for learning more about paper pumpkin kits, starting your subscription through me so you can access exclusive ideas and possibly receive gifts and prizes, joining my Paper Pumpkin fan club where there are lots of sharing and lots of other alternate project ideas, and if you're watching my video on YouTube, a link to my website to see photos of the projects that I'll be sharing today. For ease in demonstrating, I'll be substituting the clear block that came with my first paper pumpkin kit for Stampin' Up's ergonomic blocks. I'll also be using the larger version of the ink pad and some additional adhesive, such as my Stampin' Seal. By the way, if you're looking for ideas for past kits, visit my website at stampyourartout.com. Click on Paper Pumpkin in the top menu, then choose Recent or Older Posts. I've been creating and sharing alternates with every kit since March of 2013 when Paper Pumpkin first began. I'm excited to share, so let's dive in. With most of my kits recently, I have been taking and doubling or sometimes even tripling what you can get from the kit. For instance, I'll take a card and I'll separate out the supplies and I'll try to make 6 cards instead of 3. Well, I'm going to do that sort of thing with the little treat containers. So we're going to turn these three treat containers into 6 with a simple cut. We're going to take the base of that treat container and we're going to measure, and the distance between this crease and this crease is about 2.5 inches. So if we take and we look at it on our trimmer, the separation of these colors to the separation of these colors goes to about the 2.5 inch mark. So we're just going to shift in our trimmer to that halfway point, which is at 1.25 inches. And we're just going to move that separation between the white and the green into that little measurement there, which brings us to just below the 3 3/4 inch mark. And we're going to cut. We're cutting that in half. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take and make some of the same cuts that you see here onto these pink pieces here. One thing that you do not need though is this little portion here that has the scallop on it. We might be able to save that for another project later on. So I'm just going to trim all the way through on that score line. And I'm doing that with my long bladed scissors, but you could definitely do that with your paper trimmer. I think it's just because I had this in my hand. So now what we want to do is take and fold along all of these creases going in this direction and cut. And we're going to cut right up to where the colors separate again, just to make separations of all of these, which are now going to become the tabs on the bottom of this portion of the box. I think I'm cutting in the right spot. There we go. And then we can also cut right here. Now if we compare, we have a little mitered tab here, so it's kind of angle cornered off there. So we're going to take and do the same thing here. I'll grab my smaller snips now, a little bit easier to control, and we just kind of angle cut that. The same thing, you can see that there's little tiny V cuts in here. So let's take and do that. You can either do that with your snips or a long bladed scissors, and you're just going to angle cut up to that point. So we're going to do that along these 3 sections. When making alternate projects, it's good to have extra tools and some extra supplies. One of the basic supplies I'd like to have on hand is my white cardstock. So I've just got a 6 1/4 by 3/4 inch strip here. This is going to become a handle. So when I take and bring my pieces together, and I'm just going to show you how this will form here, like this, I can take and connect this like that and make a cute little Easter basket, and that's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and open this up. Because we want to connect a handle, I'm going to make the little pierced holes to connect the handle while the basket is flat. And we're going to go to the sections that are, let's see here. So here's the tab. We're going to skip. We're going to put a little hole here, and we're going to put a hole here. You can do that on these two or on these two. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to bring my tab across the tab of my handle across the top surface or the top edge, so it dips down in. And we're going to make sure that it's about the same distance from this score line to here and this score line to here. I'm going to shift it just a little bit. I have it about 3/8, so a little over 1/4 inch down into beyond the edge here, and I'm going to pierce my hole in the middle so that it's centered between where the edge of the basket is and where the bottom of this little handle will dip into. Okay. Next, I'm going to turn my handle around, and we're going to do the same thing down in this area. Okay, let's take and add our tear and tape adhesive that came in our kit. And we're going to peel off a little bit of that and put that right on the surface of this tab, the outside surface, so that it's pretty close to the edge there. Might as well do that with this piece here while we have it in our hands. Okay, so now let's take and bring these edges together. This is going to overlap that. And when you flatten the whole basket down, you'll see that it all lines up. So this is probably the best way for us to add these two sections together, is just to do it while it's flat. And then we can pop it back and forth and make sure that it's secure, and we're all set for that. Now let's bring our shorter tabs in, and feel free to put adhesive on them if you want to. I'm just going to add a little bit of this adhesive to the underside of this section. Peel off the backing. Make sure that it's looking pretty square, and it's going to help if while I'm doing this, I also bring this edge on top and make sure that it's, yep, it's all looking good. And now I can press. You don't want it to be off. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll just add a little strip here. And you could use your other sorts of adhesives. You could use seal adhesive. You could use the multi-purpose liquid glue. So now we've connected the base of our basket. And then the last thing is just to attach these. Now, instead of having the handles show on the outside, we're going to have them connected on the inside. And the basket's going to end up looking like this. To make it cuter, though, we're going to bring in one of our card bases, our slimline card bases from the kit. So I'm actually not going to add this handle. I just wanted to demonstrate with it that you don't have to dip into your card bases, and you can use them for something else. But I want my basket to be a little bit cuter. So I'm going to take and cut off with my trimmer a 3/4 inch strip. Actually, no, I'm going to cut off a 7/8 of an inch strip. So it's going to be a little bit wider, making this portion of my card 2 3/8 inches wide. And I'm doing it while I'm keeping the card closed, and the fold line is on this side. So I end up having 2 strips, one for each of my baskets. I've got a foldable card here that is currently 2 3/8 inches tall by 2 3/8 inches wide, and we'll make 2 of those. We can save this for something else, but now we have 2 mini cards that can also go along with our baskets. We do not have the holes in here, but we can bring our stamp and pierce mat. I have one that I like to pierce and the other one that I like to stamp on. But we can just take and pierce our little hole in the middle, down on this side and down on this side. And they should line up. We're going to insert some brads. We have these round and square brads, and I'm going to grab the square white ones and connect this hole with this hole to connect our strip for our basket. So we'll just open up the legs of our brad, do the same thing on the other side, making sure that our handle is inside the basket instead of outside, connecting those 2 holes, widening the brad, and now we have a basket handle. Inside the basket, we have a little mini card. So our basket's getting cuter and cuter. Let's assemble this one. I'm bringing the tabs that have the score lines in, I'm bringing those in first and then putting the smooth ones on top. It may help to use your grid paper to sort of square off your corners before adding your last tabs to the bottoms of your boxes. Bottoms of your baskets is what I meant to say. And oops, I forgot to insert the holes. Silly me. So now we just have to do it off the edge of our table, or we can hold our pierce mat up high like this. We can get through it. So let's lay that on here. Give it a whole pierce. Flip it around and do the same thing. It's much easier when it's flat, but it is doable when it's not. And remember, if you don't want to cut up these card bases, you can use other things for the handles. I'm just going to show you a way that I would have fancied up the handle for the white cardstock. This white iridescent ribbon is fun. I love it. It's another thing that I would definitely add into my collection if I did alternates with my kits. It's time to play around with some of the stamps from our kit. So we're going to take the bunny stamp and mount it onto our larger block, or the block that comes in your kit. We'll take the ink pad. The ink pad again is Early Espresso in the kit, so I'm using the same color, just a larger version of the pad for ease in demonstrating. We're going to stamp our bunny down, and if you're doing 2 of these baskets, you want to stamp it twice. And now we're going to take some blends markers, or you can use any other coloring devices, and you can start coloring it in. If you don't like to color, good news, you don't have to color a lot, and blends markers make it super easy. We're going to take and just bring the pink, lighter of the 2 petal pink markers into the ear, and we're slowly brushing color from the inside of the ear outward. So we're just having little tiny lines of pink. You can touch the nose if you want to and settle on a light pink for the nose, or now that we have the darker of the 2 colors, this is our dark petal pink, you can take and make a slightly darker pink nose. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to blend our dark with our light by just touching that darker color into the most shadowy areas of the ear. Bringing back our light marker, and now just doing kind of a little swirling motion to get those 2 colors to kind of blend better and mix. And now we have a gradual dark to light inside of our bunny ears. At this point we would just take and do a little fussy cutting to cut he or she out. I like to curve my paper and kind of keep my scissors only sort of in the same spot as I cut. I also like to leave a little white edge all the way around. It makes it easier when going around the whiskers, so you don't have to cut off the whiskers. Plus the image really stands out on your project when you have that white edge. Now we'll take and add our bunny to our basket with just a couple dimensionals. Peel off the backing, set my basket down flat, and then slide my bunny into place so that the bunny will be sitting on the ground when the basket is standing. There we go. And we put our little card inside, but we want to stamp our card first. So we're going to open this up, grab our Happy Easter stamp that's inked up with that same color ink, stamp it on the inside, and now we can put a little message in there. We can add a bit of Easter grass and a couple treats. And now we have a fun little Easter basket. Whoops, we have a fun little Easter basket to gift to someone. And if you don't want your card to be at the bottom of your basket, you can always insert it into the back so that it's not missed when you gift it to someone. Stampin' Up! Has this fun set of dies that has been coordinating with the January kit, the February kit, and will also coordinate with the upcoming March kit. It's called the Love of Spring dies, and this daffodil is super stinking cute and goes with the imagery that is in our current February kit. So I'm bringing in some yellow cardstock and some green. This is Garden Green Daffodil Delight. These are the colors that are recommended on the back side of the pamphlet or the direction sheet that comes in the kit. And you can either use your small Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine or your large one. So I'll bring in the small one because it's plenty big for this situation. We're going to take and die cut our flower. Oops, sorry, we need the cutting mat. We're going to die cut our flower and stems, mostly our stems, from this scrap of Garden Green first. And then from the scrap of Daffodil Delight. And then what we do is we take our paper snips and we cut a little triangle cut to separate the flower on the yellow, and we're going to add it to the green with a little bit of glue. My flower is up in the corner of my work area to dry. I'm also going to put a little bit of window sheet up there, just a scrap of it. This comes from a 12 by 12 sheet, by the way. And I'm going to put aside some of the white glittered organdy ribbon. Now, if you don't want to invest in the window sheet, you could use plastic from the plastic bag that came in the kit. So we're going to make a second project here, and for this one, we need another tool. We either need circle dies or we need circle punches. And Stampin' Up! Has a few different circle punches. I'll be using the 2-inch circle punch for this, but we're also going to be using the 2 3/8 inch circle punch for the next project. So for this one, you're going to take and open up your punch, and you can insert it on this side, you can insert it on this side, but it won't fit into the other sections because the punch only goes so far. And for you to fold the tab and then put it in, you're going to be punching the tab. So you have to pick which side you want. On my finished sample, I actually punched in from this side, but I was limited to how far I could go. And that circle did not end up being completely centered, as you can see here. But we didn't have problems with the tabs. On this version, I'm going to go ahead and punch into this side. I do want it to be centered though, so I'm going to grab my ruler and my pencil, and we're going to measure and make a little mark on here. Now you can mark on the back side or you can mark on this side. I know I'm going to be using the white side of the circle that I punch out, so I'm choosing to mark on the green printed side. If you know you want to use the green printed side, mark on the other side. But basically you want to go from this score line to the edge. It's 2.5 inches, as we already know. So we want to mark just a 1 1/4 inch spot there. And then we'll do the same thing here, going from score line to score line. And that is about there. And where these two connect together, and now we have to kind of bring them together, It's like right here. So this is where they would intersect if we were to draw two straight lines. So that's where I want that middle to be indicated when I punch out. It's sitting in the middle, and I'm punching. And now we have an even amount on all four sides. Pretty even. Now the problem with this, remember I said, is that tab. Over here, if I punch in this section, we didn't have to worry about the tab. But over here, you're gonna have that tab showing. So you're gonna need to punch out a bit of the tab too. And so what we'll do is we'll fold this flat, and we'll take our pencil and we'll draw a line in here. And then we'll insert our punch again and remove that spot. Now when we connect these together, they'll not interfere with each other. Let's take the window sheet portion next, because we want to add that before we assemble our box. And we want that to be less than 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So I'm going to make it 2 3/8 by 2 3/8. For this one, the glue dots that come in the kit are going to be totally appropriate to use. You could also use seal adhesive. You could use bits and pieces of the tear and tape adhesive too. So let's just grab that because it's easy to grab. And I'm just going to put a little bit of tear and tape. Tear and tape is just that, you guys. You can tear it and tape it. And I'm going to put one in each corner. And you know that you have enough room because when you lay this on here, you can see that you've got a good amount of space on the corners of your window sheet. So press that flat and then just remove the backings. And this is going to go over the top to give our little box a window that we can look through. Let's add this to this. Now the best kind of adhesive for window sheets is a tape kind of adhesive, not a glue kind of adhesive. So for this spot, I will be using, in fact here, we'll just use it from the kit. I'm using the tear and tape adhesive again. And when we get to the part where it kind of overlaps here, I'm going to have a separate piece. And I'm going to fold it back onto itself. Oh, and you know what I should have done first? Let's do this. Let's do this, you guys. Let's do some folding on all the score lines, especially the top of the box. You want to make sure that all your score lines are working. When I assembled my first one, I forgot to do that, and then it was really hard to get my, my milk carton box shape to form. So after we've done that, then we want to fold this side back like this. And then we want to crease in all of these directions. And one more here. And then we have these diagonals. So you see that? It's much easier to get those diagonal folds going if your box is flat. So let's get them creasing in the right direction. Okay, now we'll connect. So let's fold this down, peel off the backings. This one kind of got that way too, so we have to overlap it onto itself again. And this one can get overlapped onto itself. And tape, again, is much better at connecting to window sheets. Fold it in both directions to make sure it will crease. We can now add our pretty little daffodil, and this one is going to connect to the cardstock portion of the box. So I would say use either the glue dots from the kit or just a dab of, and I'm going to make sure I'm putting it in the right spot, just a dab of multi-purpose liquid glue would be good. And you can take and kind of spread it too, if that helps. Need to wash my hands after this. Okay, lay that down. Okay, now that that's ready, let's close up the bottom. I'm going to show you how I used seal to do the adhesive along the bottom. Laid down each side. And then I folded one in first and the other one. And you know what? Because this is the front, so I guess it doesn't matter because these are both side pieces now. But if these were front or back, I would have the back one go down first and then the front one. It really doesn't matter in this case, so we can go either way. Okay, and after they're all lined up, press them down. Use your bone folder or a ruler to kind of get everything going in there. Let's add some Easter grass and some fun treats. Make sure that they're showing through the window the way you want them to. And then we'll pinch the top. Use our Stamp and Pierce tool to kind of poke out these little holes here. You want to poke them out of all of them. There is twine that comes in the kit, but again, I'm bringing in that white glittered organdy ribbon because I think it just adds a little bit more sparkle and fun. When you're adding a ribbon, you want to add it so that it has a little bit of a sharp point to it. So we've made a point on the end of the ribbon. We're going to close this up. We're going to go from the front to the back and pulling from that point. And then we're going to take that point again. It's kind of like acting as its own needle, and we're going to bring it through the opposite way. So you'll want it from this point, even out the ends. Now on my finished box that I already have done, remember I told you I did my hole on the opposite end. Now if you do it on this end, you have your ribbon showing from the front. If you do it on the opposite end, like I did on my first sample, you have your ribbon showing on the side. I'm going to give this a twist before I tighten because the curl will then go down. So I'm twisting it, tightening the ribbon. I can adjust how long they are. I kind of like them long. So for my other box, I have the ribbon going on the side. And that again is because when you look at the box, this spot is 2 spaces, or 3 spaces I should say, 1, 2, 3, different from the other spot. So you're going to have a completely different look to your box. It just depends on the look that you like. Okay, save that circle. Let's do the next project. I forgot which one I promised that we were going to do next, but we're going to set this 2-inch circle aside. We'll do that one last, and we're going to bring in our 2 3/8 inch punch and one of our slimline card bases. I'm going with a lot of green today. We're going to cut this to 2 3/4 inches tall by 5.5 inches wide. Now, if you're doing your baskets where you're cutting them in half and inserting the cards, this piece will no longer be available. But if you're doing the melt cartons, you'll have these cards left over. Now, this card opened up is exactly 5.5 by 5.5. Thank you to Tammy White, who's been making a lot of the style card. I learned this idea from you. All right, so we're going to take our punch now, and we're going to mark the middle. So halfway between 0 and 5.5 is 2 3/4 inches. This is the middle spot on our card. Turning my punch upside down, and I'm going to punch halfway in. And making sure that that mark is smack dab in the middle, in the center of my circle, and I am halfway into my card. Now here's a little tip for making sure you're halfway into your card. I'm not going to punch yet. Let me get a Post-it note. And we're going to punch into a Post-it note or sticky note so that the stickiness is still there on one side of the circle. You want the whole circle being punched out. You're going to take that sticky side and make sure it's on one of the halves, fold it in half, open it back up, then you're going to cut that down the score line so that you have a half circle that's sticky. Okay, we are going to now figure out the halfway point of that circle. And when we grab our ruler, we can lay that down on our table here. It's, remember, 2 3/8 inches. Half of 2 3/8 is 1 3/16, so it's just under the 1 1/4 inch mark. We've already got this marked halfway. We're going to line up those two marks with each other so that they're on top of each other and so that this half circle is sitting right against the edge. We're going to grab our punch, slide it in, and that's where we're going to punch our half circle, right at that spot. That's how you get it completely in the middle. Now I've got my card opened up, and I'm going to use my grid paper to mark where my 1 inch height would be from the bottom of the front of my card. This is the front of my card. Here's the bottom, and I'm going 4 squares down from this dark line. 1, 2, 3, 4. That gives me 1 inch where that line is. And I'm going to add this white strip, which is a part that I trimmed off the bottom of the card. I'm going to add that so that we're seeing the white side. And I'm adding that with a little bit of seal adhesive right across like so. Trim off the excess. Now if you want to adjust this and you don't want to go 1 inch, you want to go 3/4 of an inch, that's totally fine. I'm going with 1 inch. I'm going to grab one of the wreaths from the kit. You get 3 of those. I think I have 1, yes. Okay, and we're going to lay that onto our circle. Here's where you need an envelope, and you can either grab an envelope from the kit, because these envelopes are standard size envelopes right here. And you can use that as a guide, or you can grab some of our basic white envelopes, because you will probably want to have extra envelopes on hand if you're doing alternates. But we're just going to lay this wreath onto our card. We can put it all the way to the base of the envelope, lay this on here so that it's kind of overlapping that hole a bit, but still allowing the hole to show through. And we're still able to get this into our envelope. I have to push this down just a little bit more. Shift it over a little bit more. There we go. So it's going to sit right about there. Now if I hold on to it and I open my card up, that looks pretty darn centered. It looks good. So I'm going to keep this here attached. In fact, let's grab a Post-it note and kind of tack it in place. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab dimensionals from our kit. And you'll want to use the edges for portions of this. So we'll just cut a few of the edges. Some of them are wide enough where you can, put a whole dimensional under. But for this one, I think I'm going to lay, no, I could use a whole one there. So I'm going to put a dimensional underneath this daffodil, but I'm going to put it on the wreath. Yep, that works. So what I did, I'm going to lift this up so you can see it better. I lifted this to see where it would go, and then I eyeballed it, stuck it down here so that the edge would not show through when the card is open. Now I take and peel off the backing and I stick it down. Let's move our Post-it note over to this side, and let's work on a piece over here. This one would actually also hold a full dimensional. So I'm going to lift it up, eyeball where that big daffodil is, lay it down and make sure it works. Yep. And stick that down. Now we're pretty safe to remove the Post-it note, get rid of the envelope, check everything. It looks good. Yay. I'm going to grab one more thing. I want my ribbon. So I'm going to do some extra ribbon, and I don't think, oh, I do have enough. Oh, yay. So I'm going to grab this ribbon before I put more dimensionals on it, and I'm going to wrap it around my card just as a measuring tool here and trim it. And I have about, if you wanted to know, sorry I didn't give you measurements for the other thing, but that could be different anyways depending on how long you want the tails of your ribbon. This piece is 18 inches long. We're going to start from this side. Normally we do the bow on the front or the knot on the front, but I'm doing it on the inside of the card. So I'm slipping it under there. It's all lined up. I'm going to tie in a little knot here. Hold it down, grab my two ends, and flatten it a bit. Okay, so we have our knot on the inside of our card. You can certainly add adhesive if you want to keep the knot in place, but first check to make sure that your ribbon is lined up, and then you can stick your glue dot or whatever you want underneath there. Okay, so next I can add this half dimensional in this spot. So I can lift this up, looks good. So I'm going to add a little half dimensional under here, which is also overlapping my ribbon a bit. Can you see where I added it? And I think I might stick one under here too. I've added it right in that spot. So now my wreath is all connected, and on the inside we say no adhesive sticking out underneath the wreath. So pretty. Let's grab one of our banners from the kit that looks like this, because I think that would be striking going across the wreath. We'll take our Welcome Baby stamp and we're going to mount that onto our block. We're going to grab our Post-it note and we're going to mask off the word baby. We don't want to see the word baby for this card. So we're protecting the stamp from getting ink there. We're inking it up. We're taking the Post-it note away. Oops, I didn't ink it up all the way. Hang on, let me try that again. I only got the other edge. Okay, there we go. Pull that away. And then you can stamp this down onto your banner so that it's fairly close to the right, because we want to have a little bit of space over here. Grab those dimensionals again. And I think because we have a pretty large daffodil here, I think we can just add a normal size one there. And the same thing over here, a normal size one. Well, you know what, I'm going to use a half one. Kind of right here. So we have one there and one there, and I know where they're going to go just because I've already laid this out. But first what you'd want to do is kind of lay out where your welcome is going to sit, and then you can kind of figure out how much you need for your dimensionals or where they need to be. I'm adjusting already, pushing that in a little bit more. Okay, take off one at a time. Lay it down where it's going to go. Take off the other backing and lay that side down. We're going to grab the embellishments from our kit. We have these cute little dots, and I'm going to add one big one close to the W and a small one right next to it to the left. And there is that finished card. Isn't it beautiful? What a great card to send to somebody who's coming into a group, who's moving into the neighborhood, who's becoming a part of the family. So we were pairing this up with this envelope, although we still have that other card base. So we might not want to use that envelope for this card. We may want to just bring in our medium basic white envelopes because they are the perfect size. So you can get these as an extra product. But because we've changed the size of this card, we now have extra slimline envelopes that are available to do stuff with, right? So let's turn this slimline envelope into a pocket for a pocket card. What we're going to do is we're going to take our envelope upside down and bring it to the 4-inch mark on our trimmer. And we're going to score just to kind of give it a visual marking. So that's how big we want this layer to be. We can go ahead and cut down to where that flap is, but I want to use a portion of this flap to wrap behind to make the pocket complete on the other side. So I'm only going to cut to that spot there. Plus I don't want to ruin this green layer. I want it to continue to cut through straight at this point. So let's take our envelope out of here. We're going to grab that long scissors. It does not matter what, if this is a wavy cut or not, because this portion here is going to get wrapped to the back. So I'm just going to cut down to that score line. I'm going to go ahead and cut in. I'm going to fold this back onto itself, and then I'm going to use that same scissors and use that score line as a guide to help cut that and remove it. Because I want to use this extra piece too, I'm going to lay this into my trimmer so that this bottom portion here covers up the dark section of the trimmer. We're just cutting off a 1/16 of an inch that way, just a little bit. So now this can open up and we can have a piece that's usable. I'm going to get rid of the rounded corner, so I'm bringing it to the 2 1/8 inch mark. Yes, 2 1/8 sounds great. And if you want to, you can make it wider. Sorry, this is going to go in this direction on our card. You can make it taller or shorter. It just depends on your desires, but I kind of wanted the circle to fit within, and this is a 2-inch circle. This is 2 1/8 inches tall. We'll set those two pieces aside. We've got our pocket for our pocket card piece ready to go. We just have to adhere that to the back side. So what do we need for the card base? We're going to use some more of that garden green cardstock that we used when we made our die cut daffodil, and I've just got a half of a piece of cardstock here. We're gonna so it's right now measuring 4 1/4 by 11. We're gonna score it at 5 1/2 inches, and we don't need it to be this tall because we're gonna have something peeking through from the inside of the card, which we'll also see on the outside. But for now, we'll just fold it in half and know that it is our card base. So let's set that over here. What else are we going to use on the card? We're going to use this frame. This frame is going to be perfect for kind of going around our pocket area of the card. We'll also be using one of these cute little bunny chickadee die cut pieces and some of the daffodils. So you get a ton of daffodils from your kit. We'll be using 3 of those. And the twine. Make sure you use the twine too, right? We got to bring the twine in because we've got some earthier colors going on. We've got the earthy color from the rabbit here, so we'll make sure we use that. On the inside of the card is where the pocket's going to sit. Let's take and connect this either with the tear and tape that you have in your kit or with seal adhesive, but you're just going to wrap that over the top and you're going to flatten it down. This is now going to get added to the inside of our card, so you can take and put seal adhesive on both sides. You can even put it through the middle if you want to. And you're going to center that and place it right here. Now this is the corner that you don't want to look at much because it doesn't line up as easily as this edge, this edge, this edge, and the top. So just, eyeball these edges to make sure that you have 1/8 of an inch all the way around. This is going to get added here, so we're going to do that with our multi-purpose liquid glue. And it's quite wonderful how this frame piece is just large enough to cover up the imperfection on the right-hand side. So this is now a pocket where you can insert money, you can put gift cards, you can put a note, tickets. Okay, next, let's add this piece going, oh no, let's do the bunny next. Okay, so we're gonna add the bunny. And I considered adding the bunny and the chickadee over here because they're looking in this direction, but I didn't like the way the grass looked. So I added it over here, and we're just going to do that with a couple dimensionals. We want the dimensionals to be towards the bottom and maybe one towards the top of the body of the bunny, but not any higher. We want the ears to not be connected. So we're going to add that right here along the base so that we see both of the light green pieces of grass. And then we're going to measure with our ruler about how far. We could go about 2 inches. So let's cut off about 2 inches, maybe a little less, from this flap. You're going to see what I mean in just a minute here. So I'm going to go a little under 2 inches to 1 7/8 inches. And then we're going to lift the ears up on the bunny and put the flap down. And when we put a bone folder tool going across here, it's going to lay down even flatter, but the bunny is holding the card shut. If we just have it like this, it's going to pop open more, right? It's going to sit like that, but the bunny ears help to hold it closed. It's so fun. Okay, now that we have that cut, we're going to add this going across the middle, and you're just going to position it so that you see about the same amount of green on the top and on the bottom. We do have a score line here, and because our bunny's off to the right down here, I want my sentiment my sentiment piece to be over here. So I'm going to turn this around so that the score line area is off to that side. We'll just use seal adhesive. It's quick and easy. And again, that's just going to go through the center. I'm also looking at the lines on here. I want to make sure that we've got the same kind of look on both ends or edges. So I've got the dark green area evenly spaced out on each side here, about the same distance away from the top and the bottom of the card. Press that down, turn it over, and trim those off. Let's grab our twine and wrap that around. And we want a little bit of extra so that we can tie a bow. So I've got probably, measuring with my grid paper, I've got about 16, 20 inches of twine. We'll start from the back and come around to the front, and we're going to tie our bow. Now with twine, it's going to be much easier if you tie a knot first. So I'm going to do that. I want to make sure my ends are even, about the same amount on each end. Tie my knot, and now I can go in and tie my bow. I didn't connect any glue onto it, so I can shift this bow. I can shift the bow in either direction. I'm just going to leave it be for just a minute while I stamp onto my circle, and I've got my welcome baby stamp. Now we're creating a baby card, and we'll stamp that right in the middle of our white circle. We're going to put this onto our card with 3 dimensionals. See, that's where the markings were. I knew I was going to use the white side, so I drew on the green. All right, so that's going to go here. And when we lay this down on here, I want about 1/2 inch to be on that side. And so our bow looks like it's in a pretty good spot. I'm going to make it hug the circle a little bit more and press everything in place. The last thing to do is to add some of the daffodils. So I'm going to grab in a couple that look like their profile views, and let's see, this one we'll just add straight on with a bit of multi-purpose liquid glue. This one we'll add with a dimensional. So I'm going to stick the dimensional here, which is where I want the flower to sit. Peel the backing away and add that right on top. And then the last one I also want added with a dimensional, and it's going to go in this corner, so I know where it's sitting. I'm going to pull this away and add my dimensional right there. So adorable, right? So here's the outside and here is the inside of what that card looks like. Oh my gosh, did you love these 4 projects? I had fun making them. 2 cards and let's see here, 2 different kinds of cards I should say. And then we had some little mini baskets and we just altered the milk carton to have a window in it just so we could show off what's inside. Did you see the way that Stampin' Up! Is doing their stamp sets now in our kits, our paper pumpkin kits? In particular have this little insert. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my stamps upside down on top of this insert. Peel off this extra plastic here and put my stamps back in alignment with each other on my harder plastic. And I'm just going to turn this over and curve this to peel it away. And now everything's back in alignment. I can add this, fold it up into a little envelope or someplace like that to store it. Kind of fun, huh? Now that you've watched my video, I hope you can see that with just a few extra supplies and some imagination, you can go beyond and make so much more with these paper pumpkin kits. Want to give these kits a try? They're just $23.50 plus tax per month in the US. Shipping is included. You control which months you get your kits, and there's no commitment or obligation. You'll want to activate your account by the 10th of the month in order to receive that month's kit. Here's a peek of what's in store for the upcoming March kit. And as a subscriber, you can purchase refills for past kits and extra special coordinating products like the Love of Spring dies that I used today. To access paper pumpkin kit ideas that I'll share in the future, for instance my second set of projects for this kit, be sure that you're subscribed to both my YouTube channel and my website so that you don't miss out on videos and other special blog posts. In fact, click on my website link below for this set of projects so that you can access the visual supply list and view close-up photos of all that I've shared today. If you'd like to have access to exclusive paper pumpkin project ideas from me, click on my link below to start your subscription with me as your demonstrator. Thank you for watching. It builds creativity to think outside the box. I hope that you enjoyed this video tutorial, and now I'd like you all to go and stamp your art out. Bye-bye.